For 3 years now, I've been making videos about the best whiskey investments to make at retail. And in 2025, there's only one bottle that I'm going to recommend to you. And yeah, there's a lot to unpack, so let's dive into the video. Now, over the years, we've recommended some cracking bottles of whiskey, the Glenfarclas Generation Series, the Ardbeg Millennium bottle, which again, we'll come to that in a moment. And these have been some of our most popular videos on the channel. And the basic premise is that you go out and buy a bottle of whiskey. And again, this is a really important bit, everybody. You put it aside for a long period of time. Like if you're buying whiskey at retail as an investment, you need to basically be thinking about buying it today. And it's almost like generational. Leave it for your child, leave it 10, 20 years. But that's how you should do it. But the problem has been with the market being so hot that you could, especially for that first video that we made, you could literally go out there, buy those bottles, and then within weeks and months, double your money. Like the market was just so hot. Like you could literally go out and buy bottles at retail and they would just go crazy. And again, we're going to get to that. But the market has changed in a massive, massive way. And again, let's look at this and how the market's changed. So again, you can skip all of this if you want to and just get to my bottle pick, but look, this is the most important part of the video if you want to watch it. Now, the market is a mess. You can see on this graph on the screen, this is our Mark Littler 999 Spirits Invest Index. So it's put together by Spirits Invest and it tracks the 999 most liquid bottles on the market. Now, as you can see, there is a massive plateau here. That plateau, guess when that started? That started with the war in Ukraine starting, and then the plateau ends and that drop begins with the hike in interest rates, which come about owing to the high cost of living and the high inflation that came about as of the war. And ever since, it has just sort of basically dropped and slid. So this has changed the retail investing sort of market. Now, if we look prior to that, if we look until that war starting, so let's look at say 2018 to 2022, these were the boom years, people. The market was just absolutely insane, but it's important to understand the drivers of that growth and what was driving that, and not just think, well, whiskey was going up in value. So what was driving it? Well, crazy low inflation. The inflation was incredibly low for a long period of time. And I think we had pretty much interest rates below 1% for 13 years. So there was this real need for alternative investments rather than just letting your money rot in the bank, so to speak. And kind of in this time frame as well, we had a few other things. We had COVID happen, which broadly speaking, didn't have a financial impact on a lot of people in the way that everybody thought it did. You know, everybody was furloughed, they still got the money. You know, lots of businesses got £10,000 handouts. You know, lots of fake businesses did as well, didn't they? So people keep feeling a little bit flush, but we're kind of feeling that squeeze now that we've got to pay back all of that money. But at the same time as that, you also see the rise of alternative investments in this time period as well. So like NFTs and crypto especially, were basically meaning people were making money free of charge. Like you just buy some crypto, buy an NFT, boom. Like where's all the Bored Ape Yacht Club bros now? Like they were worth millions literally at one point, and now the value is just absolutely on the floor. So the point being that the market really stalled in 2022, and then it took a while for this impact to be felt and really start coming through. And this is where we kind of see this decline coming. Now, there's one very fundamental thing that you need to remember here, is that it's not the product that has the problem. Whiskey doesn't have a problem. Yes, it has its own internal problems, which we'll get to, but whiskey isn't the problem because it's geopolitics that is the problem. And you can kind of see this. This is quite remarkable. Look at the market graph here for the LiveX Fine Wine 1000, which basically tracks the same as the Mark Littler 999 index, 1,000 bottles on the market. This graph of growth, peak, and then decline mirrors perfectly the war in Ukraine. And look a bit further, look at the fall of diamonds. In 2025, they've dropped 30% alone. Go to watch charts and have a look at all the charts there. Not just the watches are really, really suffering and falling in value dramatically, but the parent companies like Louis Vuitton, Moet Hennessy and everybody, their values are declining. So that kind of makes problem. Now, when I say like it's not the whiskey that has the problem, it kind of does have its own problem really, because the whiskey producers have failed to adjust to challenging market conditions. And I think one of the best examples of this has been the Macallan Mastery. It was released at £1,100. Now, we're going to do a video on this, but like, it's a bloody good looking bottle of whiskey, but it's not an £1,100 bottle of whiskey. But there's a thing here. Wait. If that had come out at £500, there would have been loads of profit left in it for collectors and investors, and then it would have basically reignited the market, I believe. But the problem with this, and you can't really blame Macallan for this, that product would have been in development for 2, 3, maybe 4 years. So they were pricing and developing a product for a market that had no idea that a war was going to come, that would push inflation up, that would get rid of the low interest rates. So this product is like, it's almost like the end of an era. I'm pretty certain future releases of Macallans won't be like this and this price. This was a reaction to the buoyant market. And let's face it, if this was released in 2020, this would have absolutely skyrocketed in value, wouldn't it? Like, it's a gorgeous looking bottle. But the problem of me recommending these picks on this video is that these are meant to be retail picks, but retail pricing hasn't adjusted. You know, retail pricing hasn't come down to reflect the sort of like massive decline in the market. So you're in sort of like a rock and a hard place with what to recommend. Now, there is one bottle that I'm going to recommend, and this bottle has been consistent across pretty much every video that we've done on this, and that is the Macallan 18-year-old Sherry Oak. It's £350 a bottle, and it comes out every year, and it is the longest running, I believe it's the longest running age statement series bottles of whiskey that has ever been on the market. It was started in 1984, technically, officially. 1984 was when the first one came out, and it's still going today. Over 40 years this series has been going, with a new release every single year. Now, cast your mind back to the glory days of 2020. In the middle of COVID, we sold a vertical of these Macallan 18-year-olds for a guy called Matthew Robson for an astronomical sum of money at the time. And his father had bought him a bottle of Macallan 18-year-old every year for his birthday. And that's what I'm doing for my son. Got a little boy, he's 7 now. He's got 6, the 2025 one hasn't come out yet. He's got one from every, well, 7 no, because it's 2018, yeah. We've got one from every year that he's been in. 2018, 2019, 2020, 21, 22, 23, 24. Like, he's had one for every year that he's been alive through. And for me, 350 quid is as much as you can just, it's not a harmful price, a harmless price even, but you can put it away. And you know what? When he's 18, if these bottles aren't worth more than 350 quid just from inflation alone, oh well. I've still got 18 bottles of whiskey to enjoy with my son, but assuming that the market continues in the way that it had historically for the previous 15 years, and let's not forget, people, that this is a blip in the market and it's not just like the end of the market. This is how markets evolve, and this is why you shouldn't be in whiskey for the short term, because they go through peaks and troughs. In actual fact, this drop in the market is an actual really good thing because it proves that it's a healthy market and it's acting like pretty much every other market that's out there. So it's just great. And you end up with this lovely vertical at the end. So that is my only real pick. And it works for a few reasons. It works because the entry price point isn't too bad. You know, the pricing consistency is pretty good. You know, it's always been around the £350 mark, and we'll see when it comes out this year whether it's going to jump in price or not, but I don't think they will in this climate. And yes, there are lots of other cheaper 18-year-old whiskies that you could go and do with this series, but really the Macallan 18-year-old Sherry Oak, not the double oak, not anything else, it's the Macallan 18-year-old Sherry Oak. It's kind of like the Rolex Submariner of the whiskey world. Like, you plonk it down and everyone's like, you know what? Solid bottle of that. The whiskey's okay. It's not the world's best, and there's probably a lot better, well, there are a lot better 18-year-olds that are cheaper, but it's the same with the Rolex Submariner. Like, my Garmin watch, because I run a lot, is way better than a Rolex Submariner. Well, who cares? I want it for this purpose, and for the purposes of trying to build an investment or build a collection for somebody, the Macallan 18 Sherry Oak is the way to go. So there we go. Maybe we should do a follow-up video to this, looking back at all of the historic bottles that we've recommended in this series. Let me know what you think. Jump in the comments, and welcome back to the channel, everyone.